Hi guys, it's Royce here from SB Fitness, and today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most popular subjects in fitness and nutrition, and that is the cause and effects of fat loss and fat gain. Now what I'm going to be doing today is just breaking down into simple terms the things that happen for both of these end results to occur. So if we start from the beginning, what we need to understand is the human law of thermodynamics. That is the most basic principle whereby energy in versus energy out. Now what we need to do is imagine that we have a scale to tip the balance in favour of either energy in or energy out. Now what we need to do first of all is define what energy in means. Basically, an easy way that most people understand it is calories, and that comes from food and drink. So food and drink that we consume. Then we need to look at a slightly more complex equation, which is energy out. Now, that comes from a few things, such as your basal metabolic rate, which is affected by a few things, such as your age, your muscle mass, and a few varying factors, such as what sex you are. They will affect your basal metabolic rate. Another thing that can affect the amount of energy you spend is what's known as your total daily energy expenditure, or your TDEE for short. Now, your TDEE is comprised of two main subheadings known as NEAT, which stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. In a nutshell, it's how active you are outside of your training sessions, whether that be walking, moving, your job, whatever it is, it's called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, your NEAT energy output. Then we obviously have your exercise output, so how much exercise you do and what calories you burn during that activity. The final thing that contributes to energy out is the thermic effect of food. Now what that basically means is the amount of energy used in breaking down a food into the source or the usable source that the body wants it. So for example, protein has a higher thermic effect of food than most other, than all other food sources, as does fibre. High fibre carbohydrates also has a fairly high thermic effect of food. Now, I would recommend for most people adopting a healthy lifestyle that want to lose some weight, thermic effect of food is actually the smallest thing that you can affect, okay? Now what we want to understand is how do these things cause fat loss or fat gain? Let's start from the beginning. Let's assume we take in 3 units of energy, or 4 units of energy. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? These 4 units of energy represent calories. I'm just going to do it as units for now so we can understand it in simple terms. Then we need to understand our energy out. So let's say our basal metabolic rate gives us 1. Our total daily energy expenditure gives us 2, okay? The thermic effect of food doesn't even make up 1 counter because, as I said, it is actually a very, very minute difference when we're looking at these 2 factors. Now what we would need to consider straight away, we're taking in 4. We're spending 3. That means we have 1 left. Now that 1 unit of energy is not just going to go. The body has no reasoning for getting rid of energy. It likes to save as much as it can. So what we're going to do with that extra unit of energy is store it there. So that is when fat gain occurs, when we are taking in more energy than what the body needs for its requirements. And there's no way around that. Unless we decide to change this equation here. So what we want is a different output, okay? We don't want the fat gain, we want the fat loss in most scenarios, okay? If we're looking to switch to fat loss, what we need to do is affect this equation. Now there's a couple of ways of doing it, and I'm going to show you right now how we can change little things to change the effect and therefore the result. First of all, we're going to look at the energy in, and we're going to take one counter off here. We're going to do that by reducing our calorie consumption, monitoring our calories and observing how much we're eating and drinking to bring our calories down and in line with what we need to be in an effective deficit. The next thing we're going to do is look at our total daily energy expenditure. So we're going to look at how active are we when we're outside of the gym, and how hard are we training and how often are we training inside the gym. And let's say we increase our activity levels outside the gym, which gives us one counter, and we also decide we're going to up our training schedule by one session a week, and we're going to up our intensity to make sure we're training hard. We now look at this equation. We have 3 units going in, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units going out. When we take 3 minus 5, that gives us minus 2. In which case, the body now needs to bring another unit or 2 units into here, okay? It can never be spending more than what it needs because the body would shut down. So what it needs to do is it will take 2 units of fat, which have been stored here, it will bring them over here and drop them in. And then these units get burned off by these units here, with the result being fat loss, okay? Because these 2 units have had to come over to make up the deficit of energy requirement that we're putting on the body. And that, ladies and gentlemen, in the most simplistic terms, is how fat gain and fat loss happens. The main things that you can affect are actually your total daily energy expenditure. Now, you may be looking and thinking, my basal metabolic rate, how can I affect that? Yes, there is definitely a way that you can improve your basal metabolic rate, and the main way you can do that is an increase in this here, your muscle tissue, your lean mass. You can't really change your sex in most cases, and you haven't got much opportunity to reverse your age unless you have a time machine. So the only thing you can do is increase your amount of lean muscle tissue. How do we do that? Make sure we're doing appropriate resistance training, make sure that we're training to a good intensity with the right loads and under a coach who knows what they're doing. And as I said, ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much how you can set yourself up to understand how do we lose fat, how do we gain fat. If anyone's got any questions, please pop an email over to us or leave a comment on here and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks.